Hello, my name is Kenzo and welcome to my journey in cars. My journey in cars started when I was 2 or 3 years old. I remember I went to a multi-storey car park in Basildon and there'd be a row of cars along the front and my granddad would say to me, right, I want you to name all the badges on these cars, and 9 times out of 10 I would get them correct. Now, I didn't know where this would lead me, but as we go through this film, the reasons become clear. The first influence I had in cars was Autocar, which is a weekly magazine. It has car reviews from performance exotics to affordable cars, and it has detailed reviews with technical information. It also has used car classifieds, which include exotics, Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and investment cars and prices and rarity of those cars. And it also features, alongside the cars, performance charts, 0 to 60, price, BHP and torque. Another influence was Top Gear and the Grand Tour. The reason why I drew to those shows was relatable journalism, i.e. metaphors. On Autocar, for example, they talk about how brakes are easy to modulate, whereas on Top Gear they talk about how how a certain car had milk bottle tops for brakes. Also, another thing was the travel locations. For example, they did a series called The Perfect Road Trip and they drove Alfa Romeos on the Amalfi Coast. And the other one was the Colombia Special, which they did on the Grand Tour, which was combining cars and photography, which was something I was interested in and still am. Another thing was car imagery as well, filming effects and photography, which they turned from a traditional show into a film, into like being on a film. The other thing was messing around, like turning cheap cars into police cars and ambulances, and also turning a Ford Transit into a hovercraft. But they weren't successful in some of their ordeals. For example, they turned a Nissan pickup truck into a cross-channel car. And the other thing was the guest F1 drivers. F1's a massive passion of mine, and it was quite fun to see F1 drivers drive exactly the same car, Suzuki Diana, and see who got the fastest time. The third influence in my journey in cars was Shmeel150, who is a car YouTuber. The reason why I was drawn to him was his car knowledge, i.e. the car market and car investment opportunities. Another reason was his car collection, the variety of cars he's got in his garage, from a Ferrari 458 Speciale to a Renault Clio 1.2. Also, the opportunities he has to drive some legendary cars, such as a Mercedes CLK GTR and a McLaren F1. Also, his explanation on how he funds his collection through the Shmeel150 shop he's got online, and also his brand deals that he's got, like CTEC smart car chargers, and also his event. Also, he attends events and does road trips, such as in the States and in Europe. Another thing that influenced me was video games. I have an Xbox and I got to play some racing games, such as Forza Motorsport 8 and the F1 games. It was a real interesting experience to play them, and particularly the F1 games, to interact with the cars and see what they were like. And it was something that influenced me, and I still play them to this day, currently WRC games. And then I learned how to drive. Learning to drive had always daunted me, but I learned how to drive in 2024. That was the year when I turned 17, and that was the chance of me to get behind the wheel for the first time. The first car I learned how to drive was a Ford C-Max. That car was interesting in many ways. For example, it was a diesel engine, and it'd been in the family for over nearly 20 years or so. And driving that car was a real learning curve for me. Firstly, it was a bit bigger than I was expecting. Secondly, the driving dynamics of the car. Now, that car was quite slow to respond on some occasions, but when you got it in the right rhythm, it was quite sprightly. So there were some instances where it would be like a cold day and it'd take a long time to warm up, but on a hot day it'd be fine. But the other thing about that car is you had to get the best out of it on some occasions. For example, learning to drive in that car initially was quite hard because the gear changes, if you made a jerk on the gear change, or you changed up too fast, then the car would suffer quite badly. But when I understood that and perfected the gear changes, that's when the driving experience got a lot better, and I started to enjoy the car a lot more. But learning to drive in that car, then I started to practice my driving on early mornings with it, and it was a real experience. Compare the C-Max to this car, the Ford Fiesta. It's a totally different experience. This car is more kind of alive, more on it. The C-Max it takes a while to get into its stride, but when it gets into its stride, it's pretty quick. So these two cars are different in their own right for characteristics of driving. My driving instructor I learnt to drive in two cars that he had. The first one, which is his own car, is a Hyundai i20N N line, which is basically a Fiesta ST line in a way. That car was really interesting, very good to drive, had a very responsive engine. The gear changes were quite short, quite slick, and I quite liked the car. So there were some good moments with it, there were some bad points. If I had the occasional off day when I was driving, obviously that would be quite difficult. But that Hyundai got involved in an accident, and it was off the road for a few months. And my driving instructor had to have a Golf diesel, Mark 7 Golf diesel. That car was interesting to drive, I put it. It wasn't the best in terms of driving pleasure. The gear, there was only a 5-speed box, but if you were doing 26 miles an hour in fourth gear, as I'm doing at the moment, as I'm about to do now, that the car would vibrate so much that I thought that the wheels hadn't been balanced properly, and I was kind of nearly there with that. The rear right tyre had started to shred. That's why the car was vibrating quite a bit, and yeah, that was a real problem. That was a real problem to drive with, but it was a diesel, and I was used to a diesel, having driven the C-Max, but driving that car was interesting to say the least. But it was a learning exercise, and I quite liked it. But then later on, in September 2025, I managed to pass my driving test. And passing the test was quite challenging. If you think about it, when you're driving, you've got to learn the rules of the road. You've got to understand the behaviour of different drivers. Some drivers are nice to you, and you've got some who are not so nice to you, like some who go on your bumper, for example. But passing my test brought so many freedoms, like, for example, not having to use public transport most of the time. I still have to share this car. I share it with my sister, but learning to having to do having to go on public transport frequently is something that I don't miss anymore. So that's a real positive. The other thing as well is the opportunities to improve my driving. I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, I used to take the C-Max out early in the morning to explore the limits of the car and to sharpen up on my skills. But I think in terms of driving pleasure, in terms of early morning drives, it actually helps me set me up for the day, kind of in a way. I like the fact that you can go out when there's no one around and you can explore the limits of the car, and I think it's a real important experience to have. But yeah, passing my driving test has opened up so many more opportunities now. So what is the future of the car? Well, currently we have internal combustion, electric and hybrid cars at the moment. We also have environmental pressure regarding the ICE cars, and also government pressure on those ICE cars as well. Also, we've got infrastructure problems with electric cars, the fact that it's underdeveloped. Also, we've got the increase in driving safety tech, such as ADAS. We've also got speed cameras regarding heavy surveillance. We've also got road infrastructure. Being developed as well. We've got smart motorways with variable speed limits. We've also got self-driving cars coming as well. We've also got Waymo self-driving cars, and we've also got multiple tiers of self-driving. We're currently at tier 3. We've also got the influence of AI as well, how that's going to be a massive player in the car. We've also got the influence of China, the Chinese pushing MG and Lotus onto a wider stage, and Tesla, although not Chinese, they're also a massive player in the electric car. We've also got government sponsorship, particularly from China, on those cars as well. But at the moment, in terms of automotive futurism, we've also got restoration and electrification of older cars, and like resto mods, for example. The idea that we can convert an ICE car into an electric car, so like classic cars, for example, like a MG BGT, as something like that. We've also got the car market in general, so like second-hand car values of ICE cars are actually better compared with the electric cars, and also classic car values going up over a period of time. We've covered the car industry in the present, but what I want to cover is my future with cars. And particularly I want to cover automotive journalism. I feel like I can be relatable to an audience, and I can also bring historical context to that as well. Also, I want to develop my love for photography. I currently do photography at the moment, and I feel like that's something I can further develop in automotive journalism. Also, I want to present and review images of cars. I feel like I can bring that quite well, and also I can deliver cars in quite interesting scenes. So thank you for watching, and see you on the other side.